Hey guys, today we're going to install RabbitMQ, and we're going to do this in a specific way. So there are a bunch of different ways you can install RabbitMQ, and you can install that on different OSs too. But I mean, you can do like Windows, Mac OS, Red Hat, CentOS, Fedora, different Linux distros. Today we're going to install it on Ubuntu, and you have a few options. Like you could use a repo, you could use the default Ubuntu repo, but they recommend not to do it because you're going to get an older version of RabbitMQ. And they actually recommend to use Package Cloud or Bin Tray, which once you add those repos, it's really easy. You can just do an apt-get install and install it. It'll pull all the dependencies for you. So that's all fine and great. That's pretty easy. So we're going to be following along with my tutorial here that shows you how to do a lot of different things. Today we're just going to go over the part where I show you how to install it, and I'll go over like services and other things, and all these other parts on another day. So unless you're watching the compiled video where I put these all together in one big video, which I'm going to put together later on after I've recorded them all, but they're also going to be individual videos that you could watch separately. So we're actually not going to use the repo today. We're going to do a generic binary build. We're not building it, but we're going to use a generic binary build. So it's just a binary that you would pull down. It's already pre-compiled, and you can just run it. So there are so that's relatively easy to do, sort of. There are a few things we had to. The tricky thing was really with Erlang. So RabbitMQ requires Erlang, and if you're using a repo, it's going to pull in the right version of Erlang, probably the right version of Erlang for you. And the version matters. They have certain specific versions that match up to certain specific versions of RabbitMQ. And if you look at this link, it'll show you which version of Erlang you should be running, depending on which version of RabbitMQ you're running. So there's that to consider. But so you need the right one for your version of RabbitMQ. And you won't really have to worry about that so much if you're using the repo. But anyways, so you have to install Erlang yourself if you're not using a repo, if you're just installing it yourself. And you might wonder why you would go through the trouble to do this. One use case is, let's say if maybe say the server you're installing it on belongs to someone else, and you just prefer to have full control over it yourself. Like you don't want to send a request to, say, the sysadmin team who has root access to install packages every time you want something updated or changed or altered, or maybe you want to do something to the config files, and if it was installed using if it was installed using the repo, it's going to be owned by root, and you're going to have to ask permission every time. And maybe say, for example, you're on the applications team and you just want permission to do whatever you need to do to it independently within your team without having to rely on someone else. So this is the first use case that comes to mind for me. Maybe you just want flexibility. You don't want to have to install a package. Maybe you just don't like packages. Whatever your reason is, there are a lot of reasons you might want to just run the binary directly and do all this stuff yourself rather than use rather than using the repo. So that's what we're going to cover today. This is actually how I like doing things, but the repo is a quick way to do it if you just want to get things done quick and have stuff taken care of for you. So anyways, yeah, you have to install Erlang, and so you could install Erlang with the repo, and then that kind of, I guess it still gives you the flexibility of having full control over RabbitMQ, and I guess control is the thing, like not having to have root, but still having control. Even if you do have root, it's kind of nice just controlling the whole the whole thing, and not having to wonder what the package or the installer is actually doing behind the scenes. And you might not like it spreading your files out across the system, like putting your config file in one directory and putting some libraries and binaries all over your file system. You just want to keep it in one controlled directory. So, I mean, to me, that just makes more sense, and that's how I like doing it. So, let's see here. So, you could install Erlang from the repo. Then you'd have to worry about getting the right version and stuff anyways. So, they actually have and also Erlang has dependencies itself by default. So that would really be a pain without using the repo, except that the guys from RabbitMQ actually came up with they came up with a zero dependency version of Erlang that you can just pull down from GitHub. So basically, you go to GitHub under RabbitMQ, you can pull down their Erlang. Only tricky thing with that is it's still an RPM. Now, given you can just pull down this RPM file and install it without having to set up a repo, and you're getting the exact version you want, so that's all nice and everything, but you'd still need root access, and it's still that whole mess. So, and that this is also only for Red Hat, so there's that issue too. So, and I believe it is. I believe they don't have this for Debian or Ubuntu, so you would still need to use the repo for Debian or Ubuntu. We're using Ubuntu today, so there's a way around this. So these instructions I wrote, basically, there's a tool called RPM to CPIO where you can unpack the RPM file and just install it. Basically, it's just it's a compressed directory, and there's not a whole lot more to it. There's a little bit of tweaking you have to do, but basically you can unpack the RPM and it works great on Ubuntu. So right here, the first thing. So I do still use a repo, just the default repo that comes with Ubuntu, to install RPM to CPIO. You might say, hey, well, that needs root access too, but you could just have that installed once on, like, say, a build system. Then once you've unpacked the RPM and created your own release or distribution of it or whatever, you could then copy that onto your target machine. So you might have like a dev machine, maybe your laptop or something where you have root access, or a VM or whatever. You can run this tool on there, or maybe you do run this on a server, an actual server where you have whatever access you need. But the point is, this is just a tool you add, and then you can build this and set this up and distribute it wherever you want. So anyways, to start out, I install this RPM to CPIO tool that it is used to unpack the RPM. So we do use a wget and basically pull down. You could also go to this page and download it with a web browser, but if you just want to do it from the command line and not deal with all that, do everything in one window, that's a little bit easier. You basically copy paste this command. It will pull down the RPM. And you can unpack the RPM like this using this syntax. Basically, you're an RPM to CPIO on the RPM and pipe it to CPIO-IDMV, and that will basically unpack the archive. So, and it unpacks it under USR. So it would go to the USR directory if you had installed it would be like /USR if you had installed it from an RPM. So what? So basically, just places that USR directory wherever you're running this from. So say like your home directory or whatever. So you can move that to a directory called Erlang. Now you could place this Erlang directory anywhere you want. You can install it in like opt USR, wherever you want to put it. It doesn't matter. But for like dev purposes, you could just leave it in your home directory. And we're going to use that for demo purposes today. But whatever you happen to prefer, you could put it in that location. So once you've renamed Erlang, you can you do have to edit it. So you would edit this bin ERL file and just change the root directory on it. And I forget the exact error or issue that I found that where I had to this is the way they set this file up is assuming you had installed it from the RPM. I forget even what error I came across that caused me to have to do this, but ultimately you'll have to do this. So just VI this file, and or use Nano if you prefer using Nano, whatever your text editor of choice is, and set this rootdir variable to wherever you installed that Erlang directory from above here. See how you'd moved USR to Erlang. So that directory. So in my case, I put it under the home directory for user 1, and so and this is the directory that was unpacked, and so the subdirectory lib64 Erlang. So you just need to set that up into this variable, and then you're going to set up the path for this. So you'll export it in your current terminal. Just add that bin directory to your path, and then you're going to echo that same command into your bash rc file. So that way, when you open a new terminal, it's going to be there. So you can run Erlang just by typing, instead of having to type the full path, you just type ERL. So you need that. So that's important for RabbitMQ to work. So RabbitMQ is a little bit easier. You can pull it right down from GitHub. You can pull the binary right down. So yeah, the sbin directory, you want to add that to the path. Data goes here by default in the var subdirectory. So the steps you'll take: unpack the tarball, copy it into place, set up the path, and set up RabbitMQ. So we're gonna basically, what we're going to do is wget, and I should be demoing this as I'm saying this, but so we're going to wget, pull it down from GitHub right here. So we're pulling down the tar.xz, not targz, but tar.xz file for RabbitMQ, and then all you have to do is on xz or xzip or whatever you call that. You basically unzip it, untar it, and you export the sbin directory to your path, assuming you put it in your home directory like I did, like this. Change it if your path is different, and then echo that path again to your bash rc file. So you're going to have two paths set up so far. Then you're going to want a RabbitMQ home directory set up, and that's just the directory, the unpacked RabbitMQ directory. And you're going to actually echo that variable to your bash rc file as well. And once you've done that, you can consider it installed. Installation is done. Now it's time to just run it. So you can run, so I actually should edit this. This is my guide that I wrote, but this is based off of the official documentation. I just compiled everything into one document and changed it around. And some of the things I added some things, took some things out, and kind of made it a little bit unique and made it so this is just the way I like to do it. But anyways, yeah, this needs editing. You won't need to say sbin RabbitMQ serve because it's on your path. That sbin directory is on your path. So you can just ignore this sbin here and just run these RabbitMQ serve to start in the foreground. And you could run it exactly like this to run it in detached mode, which basically means as a server in the background. And when you want to kill it, use the RabbitMQ CTL shutdown command to shut it down, and the stop command does the same thing as shutdown. I believe it's supposed to be the same. I just run shutdown every time. It doesn't make a difference really. And this, you can use RabbitMQ CTL status to show the status of the service. So we'll show you how to do all of these. And here's the location of some config files that I get into in some other guides that I've written. But these are where the files are located. And then I have some more stuff about service management, and I have a ton more stuff in this guide. Like I show you how to actually write code to work with it. How do you create different types of different queues and topics and things like that. So lots of excellent stuff there that we'll cover later. But the stuff I just went over now, that's all we're going to demo today. So I just wiped out my RabbitMQ directory before this video. So I'm going to now go ahead and I'm going to zoom in on this terminal and show you how I install it. I'm going to go through the actual steps. All right, so I actually have this RPM to CPIO tool installed already and didn't remove it, but you would literally just type this sudo apt install RPM to CPMIO tool. I'm not going to show that, but that's you just do that and type your password. But I'm going to skip over that for today. But if you want to pull this down, you can copy this, and I probably already have this file in this directory already, but I'm going to just run this command anyways. So paste this in here, and I've zoomed way in on this terminal, but just because the resolution's so high on this monitor. But so it's big enough you could hopefully see it on the video, but it's now all the text is jumbled together. But there we go. So we pulled down that RPM file, and just pulling it. Yeah. So anyways, we can use RPM to CPM.io and paste this command in here. Same command we just went over a few minutes ago. And all this does is unpack it. And let's take a look inside here. So, all right. So that's, hold on one sec. All right, so here you can see these are our, this is what's in the unpacked RPM file. It's just this USR directory with your bin, your lib, your share, your lib64. So that's Erlang, nothing too exciting. This is nothing we're going to do a whole lot with. It's just like a prereq for RabbitMQ. So anyways, I'm not even going to look in those subdirectories actually. So yeah, move it to Erlang because that just makes sense to name it Erlang. And we are going to edit this file right here. So this is that bin file. It's really just a script. So this launches the interpreter. So we're going to look for that root dir. So and let's see. So root dir USR. Oh yeah. So I'm just gonna change this to that, and that's it. That's all you have to do. Just change that one thing to the path of the actual this actual Erlang interpreter. So I believe this is the actual, like if you say file, this is the actual binary that you run as the Erlang interpreter. So nope, no, I'm wrong. So that's anyways. That doesn't matter. Bottom line, you just have to do that. Set up the path variable for the time being. So you just export it like that. And then you would want to also put it in your bash RC like this. And there we go. So you can now run ERL, and that's your Erlang interpreter. So scroll down a bit, and actual RabbitMQ is a whole lot easier. So for that, I mean, not a whole lot easier. It's still pretty easy to do Erlang, but for this, you just wget it. It's going to take a little bit, but not too long. I guess depending on your network speeds, but from there, you're going to uncompress it, and after that, you're going to untar it. And there we go. So let's look inside that directory, actually. All right, so nothing too exciting here. A ton of license files. There's your Etsy directory. There's your SBin, and so on. So anyways, let's get back to the guide here. All right, so again, same boring stuff, just export the path to the SBin directory. So that SBin directory there, that's where most of your binaries are, most if not all of them. Yeah, probably all of them. Anyway, paste, export that, and echo it to your bash RC. So there we go. We're all set with that. And I'm just going to paste both of these commands in one shot here. So all we're doing is just setting that RabbitMQ home variable like we talked about before. So let's see here. That's it. Now RabbitMQ is installed without having to use a repo or anything. We now basically have RabbitMQ installed. So you can run RabbitMQ serve to run it in the foreground. Let's see what that looks like. Just you'll never really do this except to test it out. But so yeah, that's not right. All right, let's see what's going on here. And so, yeah, that would do it. Looks like there's a typo in here. So probably by the time you see this video, this will probably be fixed. So yeah, it's not RabbitMQ serve, it's RabbitMQ server, which is pretty much on the line below that. So there you go. Probably should have spotted that right away. Any case, let's see. So yeah, add an R on the end there, which makes a little bit more sense. And this is what it looks like running in the foreground. So you can just see what it tells you what it's doing. So configuring logger, blah, blah, blah. Basic copyright. And it shows you where it's logging, which is going to be in a subdirectory of where we are now. So you can actually view the logs here and here. And yeah, config files none. I believe you actually have to create the config file, I believe. Anyways, starting broker, and there you go. That tells you that the broker is up and running. So that's the service that's basically the RabbitMQ service. Anyways, so you can Control-C this, and it should shut it down for you. There we go. All right, so you can run this in detached mode. And now it would look like it looks like it didn't do anything. It didn't give you any output or anything. It didn't say, hey, server started. But it's actually completely fine. It's running right now. Let's take a look. So this would be the process right here. So yeah, there's only a couple processes. Somehow this, yeah, because of the word grab, this is matching my Voco screen. I'm using Voco screen, which uses, I guess, FFmpeg to record my screen right now. Anyway, yeah, so this is the process for RabbitMQ right here. It's an Erlang process, so it's running an Erlang beam process. I don't know why they called it that, but beam.smp, and it is let's see, all these different parameters, and it's telling you to run Rabbit. So it doesn't actually say RabbitMQ in the process name, but that's what it is. That's RabbitMQ. And we can verify that it's running. So we have the shutdown and the stop. Let's try status, just to see the status of the. And there we go. So it's actually a lot of output there. So status of node rabbit at zippyzap being my host name. So yeah, it shows like stats about the machine, that it's Linux and so on, like your Erlang version and stuff like that. Yeah, plugins, data drive, just a bunch of stuff about it, like where you're logging and things like that. Memory usage, yeah, just a bunch of stats and so on and so forth. But yeah, basically it's up and running. These are all the stats. You wouldn't see this if it weren't up and running. So there you go. There you have it. So let's try shutting this down. So it's actually interesting that they have the RabbitMQ serve. That you would run that directly, and then you have to shut it down, you use RabbitMQ CTL. It'd be kind of nice if you just use RabbitMQ CTL start or some kind of syntax like that, but they don't have it set up to work that way. Anyways, let's try stopping this. And there we go. And when you do stop it, it gives you a message saying, hey, we're stopping it. So it looks like it actually did something. Which I guess it's a different binary, so that kind of makes sense also. So if you run status now, you will notice that you couldn't even see what was at the top of that. But all right, let's scroll up here. Yeah, see, first thing it says is error, unable to perform operation, blah, blah, blah. And obviously that's because it's not running. And let's see here. Grep for the process, and we see RabbitMQ is not running. You see that Erlang process is not there. The only thing we really see that matches that is our screen recorder. So there we go. RabbitMQ is installed. That is that's basically the standalone binary way of installing RabbitMQ on Ubuntu, and that's the way I know of to do that. And I'm not sure if maybe there's like a more convenient way out there that I am not familiar with. And there are other options. You could modify the way I did it. Like you could install Erlang from the repo or something. And you could just install the RPM directly if you want to do that, and if you're running Red Hat. So you have different options. So pick what's right for you. You might just want to use the repo for everything. Use the third-party repo. Use your built-in repo, however you like doing it. But this is my preferred way of doing it. This is what I did. So you don't have to. It's also kind of nice because you don't need to be tied down to one. You don't need to be at the mercy of the repos and whatever they happen to have available. But for whatever that's worth. For server management, basically the same thing. All right, so if you did install it from the repo, you can run it as a service. This mostly doesn't apply if you installed it manually, unless you wanted to create a service yourself. Yeah, I should cover a few things quick, like the default user's guest, the default password's guest, and for at least all the tools I've tried, those just work. Like you don't have to type them in. Like if you actually enable the management interface, you do have to type those in. But if you don't, like the web GUI, there's a management interface that includes web GUI, and it also includes like a web API and stuff like that. And to log into that, you'd actually have to put in guest. But to use tools like actually, I believe it's RabbitMQ admin. I believe RabbitMQ CTL doesn't require the password even if you change it from default, but don't quote me on that. I believe you actually have to, if you stick with guest, I think most of the examples, I actually didn't have to change the password or anything for any of the examples that I used down here, but any of this code. But I actually haven't tried running these examples yet after having changed the password, but I believe if you do change the password, you're going to have to actually specify in your code. But I haven't tried that yet. We will be trying that in the future. But anyways, so yeah, stay tuned for future videos. We're going to cover all these code examples, show you how to do different types of things with RabbitMQ. And we also have a lot of videos coming up where we're going to answer some questions about how to do specific things with RabbitMQ. It's like in this document, basically, just to give you an idea of some of the things coming up, we have, so today we covered installing it. We didn't cover the repos using these methods, but they're pretty easy. Maybe I should do another video on those, but for now, I just did the generic binary build, and a little bit about service management, but I didn't get into detail with that. Those specific commands we're not going to use because of how we installed it. Anyways, so we will, and there's some other things to be aware of, but the next things I was really aiming for, and I might go into more detail on these, but I would like to get, I basically did all the examples in Python. I haven't done any in Java or any other language. But I'm going to cover each of these topics, like Python Part 0, Python Part 1, Python Part 2, and so on, all these different parts that teach you how to do different things using Python and RabbitMQ. Like Part 4 covers routing, Part 5 covers topics. I'm basically going to do a video for each of those, and then I'm going to also compile them all together into one big video. But that's something to keep an eye out for. And I also have there are also a lot of specific questions people ask about RabbitMQ. So I have a lot of how-to documents that are also going to become videos also. So stay tuned for that. You might, if you found this useful, give us a thumbs up. You're probably gonna so yeah, basically like and subscribe. You're gonna want to subscribe because if you like this type of content and you want to see more of it in your feed, you're definitely gonna want to subscribe. And if you want to know when you're probably gonna want to hit the little bell icon just so you know when anytime we release a new video. So anytime any of these upcoming videos comes out, if you're subscribed and you hit the bell icon, you'll know when one comes out. It'll just give you a little alert saying, hey, another video came out from these guys. You might want to watch it. But yeah, so like and subscribe, hit the little bell icon. And as always, hopefully you found this useful. Leave a comment down below, comments, questions. I try to get to them sometimes right away. Sometimes it might take me a little bit. But at this point, at least, I don't get too many comments. So I do try to get around to responding to everyone and answering questions and stuff. So if you do have a comment down below, I want to know what you think. Comments, criticisms, questions, anything you want to say, just leave a comment down below. Hopefully you enjoyed watching this. And as always, we will see you next time.